On behalf of Vox and ALS family, I welcome you all to this session today called Tête-à-Tête with Mr. Rajat Ubhaykar. I'll just start with a short introduction for Mr. Rajat, and then we can go on directly to the conversation. So, Rajat is an IITK Y8 alum who left his consulting job to study journalism at the Asian College of Journalism, following which he joined the Outlook business as a correspondent. He took a break from his job and went on a very interesting 100% unplanned journey across the length and breadth of the country, hitchhiking on trucks. And he documented this entire journey in his book called Truck the India. The book has not only received a lot of critical and commercial acclaim, but also got shortlisted in the prestigious Sahitya Akademi Yuva Puraskar. Finally, he went on to join the Indian Foreign Service, which he's serving right now. So it's an honor to have you here, Rajat. Thank you so much for joining us. We are also being joined, in addition to the audience on Zoom, we are also being joined by our live audience on Facebook. So this meeting is getting live streamed on Vox's Facebook page, where we have some audience as well. The session today will be moderated by Aditya Trivedi. He's a fourth year undergrad student at IITK, and he's a chief editor of Vox Populi. So over to you, Aditya.
Very good evening to one and all, and a very good evening, Rajat. It's a pleasure meeting you today. So I think that since we are already 10 minutes late into the meeting, we should start with our conversation right away. So Rajat, while I was reading about you, I guess we all have read about you that you have made many major transitions in the past 10 years in your career, to be very specific. You started with electrical engineering, then you went to management consulting, from where you switched to journalism, to hitchhiking across India, writing a book, and finally you entered something very formal as civil services. I want to ask you, what has been your thought process in making all of these very bold transitions, that too in a very short amount of time, and how did you manage to get the courage of leaving securities behind and taking up so many experiments with the life? Please let us know about this.
Sure. So firstly, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure speaking to IITK students, and even just catching a glimpse of these, I suppose, hall one rooms is quite a nostalgic experience. And yeah, so as far as your question is concerned, firstly, I joined, I had made up my mind actually in third or fourth year itself that I want to do journalism at some point. I was quite clear about that. But at the same time, since it was such an unconventional career choice, in which I had literally no one to guide me, or there was no sort of precedent for that, at least in my knowledge. So I thought for a year at least I should work in the corporate world, see what life is like, the conventional life is like, before giving it up. And also, since it pays well, I thought I'll have some savings also when I venture on these sort of less trodden paths. So that was the thinking behind joining consulting. And within a year, I was convinced that, okay, this is not meant for me. And that gave me the confidence and plus a bit of the savings too, to help me join something like ACJ. So which is also a good journalism college. And journalism, as far as I was concerned, in my early 20s is when you have some potential, some scope to be adventurous, to, because the life's responsibilities have not really, started as such. You are still you're still on newfound paths in a way, in our early 20s. So that was when I decided that I want to pursue journalism for sure, because right since college, writing, reading, traveling is what really excited me the most, more than sitting in the lab or crunching numbers, or which is what is typically expected. But so when I thought, okay, how does one make a living out of these sort of unremunerative passions, the only option that came to my mind was journalism, because it's a good job for anyone with curiosity, in a sense, because it is a one job that rewards curiosity. So since I thought I was abnormally curious, I would say a bit, so I thought journalism is a good avenue for me to start on that. And of course, I mean, once my early 20s commenced, I realized the bigger forces at play. Once you enter journalism, you are exposed to the worlds of business, politics. You realize the world is much more complex, a much more interesting place than you even imagined it to be, when you are a college student. So at this time, I had also this idea of hitchhiking with trucks, and I managed to do that while I was on the job, actually. So my Outlook group actually paid me to travel across India, because I wrote like a 6-part series for them based on my journey. So it was a lucky break, and it was kind of a crazy journey. Like, no one had really done it, and it was sort of a very, very novel idea. And that's why I also got a book deal. And that too, I did not usually, to even write a book, you have to struggle, you have to go through literary agents and so on. But I was lucky in that it was the publishers that approached me after reading some of my articles and stuff. So all that happened, and the final transition is the civil service one. So while traveling across India, you realize how outsized a role the government plays in the lives of ordinary Indians. And the thought that one could be part of that system and try to do your bit, as a cog in the machine. But of course, your bit is a substantial bit. You're a cog in a machine anywhere, whether it be the corporate world or you're anywhere. Mostly you're just an anonymous little person doing your thing. But in the government, at least you have some substantial contribution to make. And the idea of foreign service particularly attracted me the most, which is why I prepared for the civil services. Foreign service was my first preference, and the kind of life and exposure that foreign service gives you, I thought was unparalleled. See, because in my travels, I had explored pretty much all of India, and the thought that one could have a seat at the high table of geopolitics and be exposed to so many influences in the world, so many geographies, cultures, that really excited me. And so foreign service was the dream job for me while I was preparing, and I luckily got through. So that has been my thought process. And now for the next few decades, I'm sure, it's going to be a mixture of writing, of diplomacy and everything. So let's see where the future takes me.
So that was a very insightful journey. I would like to double click on a few points that you mentioned. You said that during your journey at IITK, during the third year itself, which is quite early for compared to many of us, you had made a decision that you want to go into journalism because you love to read and write. So was there any particular person, for example, today when we look at our at IIT Kanpur, we have a good amount of journalists at IIT Kanpur who are doing a good work outside. So was there any person whose journalistic work you looked up to, who inspired you during those days? Not necessarily from IIT Kanpur?
Not necessarily from IIT Kanpur. I won't say that actually. I read the newspaper, but I did not follow particular journalists. I used to enjoy reading the newspaper, but in college, actually, I used to mainly enjoy reading fiction. I used to read voraciously a lot. Book club, I used to use like whatever resources book club had. It had a great collection. I don't know if that's still the case. So I used to read, and I think it wasn't devoted. Like I never really had role models per se, even for journalism or for civil service. At the end of the day, I believe you have to lead your own life. You cannot compare your journey with someone else's, or you might seek inspiration now and then when you are down and low. But I did not have any sustained role models whom I looked up to. I can't say I did. So I hope that answers your question.
It does, definitely it does. So after your brief stint at management consulting, you decided to join ACJ, which is one of India's best colleges for journalism. So I would like to listen from you, and I guess this is going to be very helpful for the students as well who are listening to us, that how was your life at ACJ similar and different from that of IIT Kanpur? And when I'm saying life at ACJ, I'm not strictly referring to the academics, but in terms of your experiences, the people, the ecosystem, how was it similar and different from IIT Kanpur? We would love to learn from you.
Yeah. Oh, it was very, very different. It was really an enriching experience after IITK. IIT Kanpur does give you exposure to, the best of minds. People come to deliver lectures from all over the place, but I did not attend any. Mostly I was in my room. So it was, though it does give you that kind of opportunity, you also are in this nice little comfortable space. You are hanging out with your wingmates and, so one's exposure to the world is in a way limited. Though the institute does its best, you really do not do your best. You are happy in your little bubble, and journalism in a way, like ACJ really forces you to look beyond the bubble, because even in Kanpur, say even though you are exposed to the deprivations of India in a way, UP being UP, but at the same time, you do not really engage with it, at an intellectual level. You observe it, and just ignore it. But for example, in journalism, in ACJ, we had a course like on rural deprivation. So where we went on reporting tours to districts where the HDI is very low, and all those experiences really helped us to get a ground level understanding. Because most of us in IIT Kanpur, we come from kind of sheltered backgrounds. We've been through this same rigorous process of getting selected, and so that engagement with the wider world is sort of missing, I would say, in general. Though we do watch a lot of movies, TV series, and all that is there, but with the real world and with India, beyond its metropolitan bubbles and its privileged bubbles, it is very much missing. So I got that engagement with the world over in journalism. At the same time, I would say the faculty, etc., were excellent. We got some of the best journalism, both reporters as well as editors, scholars, everyone. And we attended because we had to attend. That was the course. So we did that. And another huge difference was, of course, the gender ratio, the kind of people you meet. Like the gender ratio in ACJ when I went was 2/3 women and 1/3 men. So imagine after IITK, where for us it was less than 10%. So it really helps, it exposes you to diverse people. Otherwise you are sort of stuck in that whole engineering boy group, in the sense that you never really get out of that, right? So so that it really helped in that sense too. It sort of diverse gender perspective of the world, as well as you get to know what women are like in person. You make friends with women, all these things which often does not happen in IIT. I know that. So so that happened. And apart from that, I would also say that the experience was enlightening in the sense that it was in Chennai. So after Kanpur, being in Chennai and negotiating with Tamil and just being exposed to South India, that was also an education in itself, just being in Chennai. So I would say these are some of the experiences, and plus the backgrounds of people. Man, it was pretty awesome in the sense people from DU, people from Calcutta, people from Kerala, all sort of different backgrounds. You make friends with them, you meet them, and that expands your worldview. So these are some of the really good things about ACJ. Kanpur, of course, it made me the person I am. There's no doubt about it. It's like a formative experience. But ACJ really helped add some layers on top of that.
So after you graduated from ACJ, I guess then you started your journey as a professional journalist. So during this journey, now that you are a professional journalist, you have a far better education in this field. What kind of stories grabbed your attention the most, right? Which, when you looked at them, you said that, okay, I want to be the person who wishes to cover this with a certain viewpoint. And when you were carrying out your method of journalism, did you prefer to stick with the conventional norms of journalism that we see around us? Or did you try experimenting with different things so as to do the justice to your stories?
So, I was a business journalist, okay, and I was based in Mumbai. So most of the stories I happened to do dealt with corporates, dealt with big business houses, with their corporate strategies and so on. But my real interest often was in the informal economy. Like business also covers informal India, right? But the media ecosystem is structured in such a way that it's only big business and the corporates, that the formal economy which is actually covered. So I was also left kind of unsatisfied in the sense of what's happening in informal India, which is where 80 to 90% of India works. What are the stories out of there? What's happening there exactly? And this was my approach. I always wanted to interview people who are the most marginalized sections, the people who are not written about. I thought that is the kind of stories that should be written about. Though I could not do much of that in my job, I did some investigative journalism as well, because India, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of scope for investigative journalism in business actually, but it is not done at all due to various factors, which I don't want to get into. But it's just that there's not a lot of investigative journalism in that. And so this whole mindset led me to, in a way, truck the India, because the economy at large, which is what I was covering, business and economy, I felt that it's ultimately it is fueled by the truck drivers, right? It is a truck drivers who actually run India in a way, in the sense that goods are moving from here and there. And this whole fascinating ecosystem of truckers, dhabas, highways, what exactly happens there, that I felt was not written about at all. Like, at least I could not come across. And this eventually led me to Truck Day India. So another book that really influenced me was actually A Free Man by Aman Sethi. So that was also a great book in the sense that it showed me that you could write about informal India with empathy, make it interesting, informative, as well as entertaining. And which I felt was maybe not possible. Maybe the middle class readership is not interested in the lives of those below them. But with that book, I thought it is possible to make them interested, and that gave me hope. And that led me to travel across India in a way. Of course, the idea that I might write a book out of it someday was super remote, because I was nobody. I didn't know anyone in the publishing industry, and it seemed like a tall order in general. But I just wanted to travel. Basically, in my early 20s, I was a bit stupid, and I wanted some nice, interesting stories to come out of, something I could narrate to my grandchildren someday. That was actually the mindset I went with. I mean, just an impromptu adventure. Even if nothing comes out of it, it doesn't matter, because I will have had that experience, and which is what matters. So that was sort of my approach towards journalism in general, and I'm happy that I have something to show for it in the form of that book.
Definitely. So you just told that you when you wrote this entire book after hitchhiking across India. So since we have many students in IIT even now who are very passionate writers, so I would like to learn from you and that what was your journey of writing the book? What was it like? In a way that when you decided that you are going to compile it all, it is quite different from writing short blogs or individual stories, right? When you have to create a coherent story which runs across 300, 400 pages and which gives a larger picture of the entire highway economy, right? And the way it is written, it is always a very fun read that you never know when 100 pages have passed by. So for the students who are learning to write, what are your experiences that you would like to share, that how do we become a better writer? And what did you learn in this journey about writing specifically?
So firstly, when you're writing a book, the first thing to have is an outline in place. Okay, if you are intending to write a book, then firstly make a chapter outline. Like, just delineate what do you want to cover in each chapter, what are the broad themes you want to cover in each chapter. Just have that in the beginning. At the end of it, you might realize that you've not really adhered to it and you've had to make changes while you're writing. And but it is important to have at least that sort of skeleton in place in your mind, just to give you hope, because it is such a marathon exercise that it's easy to lose hope in between and say, all right, I'm done with this, I don't want to do it anymore. But if you have that skeleton in place, you at least know, okay, there are 5 more chapters to do, I'm done with 2. So just to have that hope that one day I'll finish the book, in that sense. And at the same time, I think writing is, firstly, it's important to evoke characters in a way. It's that the reader should be able to imagine in the mind's eye whatever is happening. That is the most important thing to keep the reader engaged. And I mean, I really respect readers, and I respect whoever is going to read my book in general, in the sense, because there is so much competition for your attention. There are so many things vying for your attention that if someone is giving you their precious time, it is a huge privilege. And because of that, my main aim with writing in general is to not bore the reader at any point. Do not bore the reader. Do not be self-indulgent. That is what makes, bad writing in a way. I mean, there's a lot of literary fiction that is, premised on being slightly self-indulgent. I mean, that's literary fiction. Most ordinary readers do not engage with it. But that whole idea of literary fiction also is flawed in my view, because at the end of the day, I think writing something that is readable, something that is engaging, something that doesn't bore is possibly more challenging than writing something which is, literary. So that is my key mantra. I mean, and of course, to become a better writer, you have to just read a lot. That is really, there's nothing more to it. I don't know what to do. And maybe just write around 300-400 words every day. Just write for an hour every day. Those are the only 2 things you can do. Everything else is beyond your control. You can just read a lot, just try to imbibe influences, see what kind of writing you like, and try to emulate them in a way for beginners. As a beginner, you can try that. For example, when I read God of Small Things, I was in IITK only at that time, and I loved it so much that I tried to write a review that emulated her style of writing. Because I love the style. Of course, it's not something that is something like sustainable in the sense I cannot become Arundhati Roy one day and just start writing like her. But just to get that sense of rhythm, that sense of how the words flow from one to the other. Everyone has a distinct style, okay? So the risk with imitating too much is that you risk losing your own voice. You lose your voice, and like establishing that voice is tricky in the sense it took me like a year of writing the book to, I suppose, discover my voice. But just try not to bore the reader, try not to use too many big words, and just be interested in what you're writing. Be passionate about what it is you want to convey. Do your research well. I mean, researching is so important. I'm speaking about non-fiction, of course. Fiction demands its own sense of research. Maybe sometimes it's even more the kind of research you have to do for fiction. But for non-fiction, do your research very well, because maybe the research is useless. For example, I did a lot of research for Truck the India also. Maybe over 50% did not even find its way into the book. Because you have to be brutal, you have to be ruthless. Because if you don't want to bore the reader, you have to be brutal with your words and with your content. Do not fall in love with your own writing, and do not hesitate to chop things off. Just keep the reader, just read your own work as an editor. So I edited mostly my book. So when I was editing, I used to think like a reader. This is where I'm getting bored. Oh man, I need to get rid of this. Do not be too attached to it. So just do not be too attached to your own writing. Your writing is not that good, trust me. Don't be too attached. And yeah, that's all I would say. Those are some of the tips, maybe incoherent, but yeah, just that's the only way to become a good writer is read and practice writing. That's it.
So I would like to now shift the direction of our conversation towards your experience that you had while you were traveling in the trucks. So since you have traveled a really long distance and you talk to many people during the journey. So I would like to learn from you what were your reflections on the unique insights that you got from the truck drivers throughout the journey. In the sense that how did this experience affect your day-to-day life, your work, your own thought process, your personality, and were there any specific incidents during the journey which gave you a very different, sort of insight that you had never thought of, and which has stayed with you till now?
Yeah, I mean, the major takeaway I think for me from this whole journey was that India is a country of decent human beings. Fundamentally, the ordinary Indian is a decent, honest person, intent on making an honest living. And I mean, the kind of generosity, the kind of hospitality utter strangers showed me, it was just, I mean, I was astounded. At the same time, I realized that being too cynical about India or being too cynical about humanity itself is futile. Most people are decent human beings. That was my most fundamental takeaway from this whole 6-month long journey, considering I came out of it alive, unharmed, and like happy. So it was a good takeaway. Apart from that, I would say I learned a lot from the drivers. I mean, the art of patience, just the kind of lives the drivers lead. They are subjected to a lot of arbitrary influences, which tend to delay your journey. You'll be stuck at some border, you'll be stuck in some traffic jam. And just the kind of patience these guys displayed all the time, it was astounding to me, because we are kind of, used to getting our way soon. Now we have 10-minute delivery and everything. But it's just being patient, waiting for things to come to you. Like just being more zen in general, it's a lost art now in these times a lot. So that is something I tried to learn from them. I'm not succeeded in implementing it completely, but I've tried to implement it in my life to whatever extent possible. Apart from that, just I was astounded, by you read a lot about the diversity of India and stuff, but when you actually encounter it, you encounter the different food, the different people, the languages in places where you won't even know what is happening. There's no one whom you can speak to. Because nobody knows what language you speak. No, it's just, so the kind of diversity you really encounter has stayed with me. And now as in the foreign service, I'm so proud to represent this massive, amazing country, to the world. And that love for India, I mean, it has only strengthened so much more in me after traveling and meeting its ordinary people, just hanging out with them, So I love India and I love Indians so much more after this whole journey. Like I can't even tell you. So these have been some of my influences which have stayed with me.
So when you were traveling, since you have mentioned this in your book, that you have described many events wherein truck drivers have opened up to you about having committed certain acts or their general attitude towards certain things which are considered highly incivil and even criminal in the urban setting. For example, the normalization of child abuse, their opinion towards women, and encounters with insurgents and Naxalites on your way. So all of these challenges were present in front of you. So any normal person, when they encounter such a person or such a thing, the first instinct is to distance ourselves from them, right? That, okay, I do not want to be in this situation anymore. It might invite more risk for me. And same would have been my condition if I faced insurgents on a blank highway someday. So as a journalist, right, how did you overcome this moral dilemma? That is something which is very exciting to me. Right? How did you make sure, how did you convince yourself to continue with the journey? And at the same time, accommodate yourself with the people whom you might have despised the most at that particular moment, right? Right. So how did you make these decisions and overcome these dilemmas?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. You encounter a lot of unsavory, unpleasant people. That is just part of life, I suppose, right? You do encounter them. And in this journey, especially, I did encounter many such people. But I remember like reading through literature and whatever non-fiction I've read. Like, I think a writer's fundamental duty is being non-judgmental. If you want to portray the human condition, which is, in a way, which is the purpose of literature, there's just portraying the human condition, just what it means to be a human being, and that comes with its own set of complexities. So I think the main thing about being a writer in a way is to be non-judgmental. Just look at the character for who he is. In this case, I would recommend this book by Somerset Maugham, Moon and the Sixpence. So this is an amazing book on the life of the artist and the life of the writer. I mean, how you have to engage with this sort of moral dilemmas you encounter on a daily basis, as if you want to portray someone. So I mean, and as a journalist also, you are just hungry for stories. So the more unpleasant the person, in a way, the more happy you are. Honestly, you're all right. This is something awesome that I've found. Otherwise you don't want to be talking to some family man who goes home and sleeps at like 10 p.m. every night, right? That doesn't make for very good copy. So in a way, you are often looking forward to meeting such morally dubious people who straddle the world, because India is a complex place. Okay, India is not a place where everyone is goody two shoes, and it is a complex place where people make all kinds of morally questionable choices and decisions on a daily basis. If you start judging everyone, you'll pretty much be alone with so that's the way. If you want to really explore India and in all its complexity, you have to engage with the moral the moral quandaries that lie at the heart of it. And the ordinary Indian makes such decisions all the time. Okay, so it's and once you realize that, then you realize these are just normal human beings like you and me. Maybe they've not had our privilege and our the exposure that we had at a young age to rise above such things and cast moral aspersions on those below us. So you just have to be sympathetic. You have to realize the background that the people come from shapes people so much, right? It does not excuse them from their acts, but as a writer, you can more authentically portray the complexity of every person when you realize the background, the circumstances that make a person who they are. I think that's what I would like to do.
True. So now I'll move towards the last section of our interview. This question is coming from the dilemma that many students we discuss among ourselves, that whether it is about being a journalist or writing a book or being an efficient civil servant or being good in any field, right? It is very important that any individual is very well read, right? And writing is also writing critically, writing analytically, having a clear flow of thought. These are the essential skills that we all must have. However, today we are living in an age of information overload, right? We have lots of information. We have hundreds and thousands of books being recommended every day. So how does one navigate through all of this clutter, and how do you navigate in specific that how do you make sure that, okay, if so much information is present around me, how do I make sense out of all of this? How do I pick the relevant from the irrelevant? And how do I make music out of all of this noise. So this is something which we would like to learn from you.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. So we live in an age of information overload. As for how I navigate this information overload is, see, books are one good place to start with. Like, reduce your exposure to there's a lot of velocity of information, right? When you just open your smartphone, it's just everything is coming so fast, and just try to reduce your exposure to that velocity and sustain deep reading. That's why books help. How to discover good books? Follow my Goodreads for one. I use it a lot, and in general I've used Goodreads a lot to just discover books. You can't rely on one person or anything. There's so much to read out there. You have to make your own decisions. So Goodreads is a good place. It's a repository of all the books available in general. And one book's like you can go down rabbit holes. Like if you find something, one book is interesting, go down good books. So in that sense, I think podcasts really help.
Is my connection paused, or is there a fault on Rajat's end?
I think it's a fault on his side.
Okay, we'll just ask him to. Yeah. There seems to be a connection error on Rajat's end. We'll just wait for him to rejoin and this connection to be normal again.
Yeah, sorry. It's good, right? Yeah, so another way I would say is to use podcasts. Podcasts are a great way to discover, like just start, if you want to know more about India, then just go through all the books on Seen and the Unseen. That's a great podcast with some amazing book recommendations. And mainly read what you're interested in. Don't follow the trend. People are reading this book these days, so I need to read it. That is the most stupid thing you can do. If you read the same books everyone is reading, you're thinking what everyone else is thinking. So don't do that. Just read what you're interested in. Follow your own interests, basically. Don't fall into any trap of this is the thing to read, this will blow your mind, this will give. If it's something that interests you and is popular at the same time, then go for it. And read fiction also. I've noticed this trend among many people that they read for instrumental purposes only, to seek something of value. That is especially among Indians, this is highly prevalent. They'll read something to gain some value out of it, in the sense how does this help me make more money, be more popular, be more fit. That's why self-help books are such a rage in India. But read more fiction. I would say balance fiction and non-fiction well, because fiction gives you the capacity to empathize with other human beings, to inhabit another body in a way. When you're reading about some very well written fiction, it can help you literally be another person when you're reading that for the course of that day. And that sort of transporting experience is unparalleled, and nothing, not even movies, not even TV shows, nothing can deliver that. It's only fiction that can really help you become another person. So read fiction, read non-fiction too, and explore your interests. Read history. I would say history is very, very useful, because I personally love history. So history is amazing. It really gives you a sense of how we came to be who we are, why things are the way they are. This is a question that all of us sometimes grapple with, but reading history will help you resolve some of that. Read science, popular science, just to know, the possibilities, the complexities of the world, and where the future might be headed. So these are some of the genres I would recommend in general, but of course, read what you're interested in mainly. That's the most important thing.
So now I will come to my last question, which is for the audience, precisely mainly for those in the latter years of IIT Kanpur. So we all are, so many of us are very anxious at this point of our life at IITK, who do not maybe want to take up a path in research, or who are very much reluctant to take a path in corporate, right? And this puts us in a position of anxiety, right? That should I be making the choice that I really want to make? So now that you have been in that position and you have come out really well, what wisdom would you like to share with students who are facing it, who are finding it really hard to make such decisions for themselves?
So main thing to remember is that, see, you guys have like a huge safety net. Okay, being from IIT in general, the world will forgive your mistakes. The world is very kind to you in general. So don't just make use of that. Make use of that. Just don't take the safe path and be scared. Be so scared in general. Just use this privilege that you guys have to make your own decisions, of course, whatever, but do not be scared of pursuing whatever you want, especially in these years, in the next 4 years of your life. When you are free, you are young, you can be a bit wild too, So do that. I mean, don't necessarily do that. If your research is where your heart lies, then just pursue it. Don't think twice. At this point, don't think too much unless you have certain family obligations, some constraints, and which hold you back and from doing what you really want and so on. That's a different matter. But I think most of us in general have that relative freedom of pursuing what we want. So be brave and just go out into the world. The world is an incredibly exciting place now, especially now, full of possibilities, especially those of a creative bent of mind. For them, it's an even more exciting place. And just make use of that properly. And yeah, that's all. I mean, just these are the kind of years when people often face identity crisis. They don't know who am I, what do I want to do, and all that. I know. So don't think about it too much. Just take life step by step. That's my only motto in life. Don't plan your life to the T. Life will definitely things will turn out not the way you planned them. So live life step by step. Just think, what is the next thing I want to do, and just pursue it. If it doesn't work out, maybe try to have a plan B also. But when you're doing your plan A, just give it your heart and mind and take things step by step. Because where does anxiety come from? Anxiety comes from either dwelling in the past or worrying about the future, right? Those are the only two sources of anxiety. So just take step by step decisions, and I'm sure things will turn out your way, man. And you guys are from it really helps, man, being from IIT in general. So don't worry too much.
So it was really good to hear this advice. It gives us a lot of confidence in the end finally. So before we conclude this interview, Abhimanyu, do we have any questions from the audience, or do you have any more questions to ask?
I think we can open it up to the audience if anyone has a question. Yeah.
Those in the audience can raise hands and we'll ask them to unmute.
Although I had a question which is sort of irrelevant, but I'll still go ahead and ask it. What really goes into like the post writing of a book, as in after writing, how do you like finding a publisher and then sort of marketing the book? So can you take us through that journey as well?
Yeah, sure. So usually how it works in India is that if you're a first-time author, you have a really difficult time just pitching your book. But to help matters, you typically hire a literary agent who then charges say 10-15% of whatever you make, and they will help ensure that your book at least reaches the top of the pile, the whatever submissions the publishing houses have. And once that is done, once your manuscript is done, or once it has been edited and published, then you typically have someone from the publishing house who will manage your PR. They'll pitch your book to media houses to review for reviews, and they will help you set up some launch events and all that stuff. So to help publicize the book, though I honestly think it's more word of mouth and organic growth that really helps a book, because the number of books out there is just staggering. And to ensure the longevity of a book is near impossible through just publicity and PR. The end of the day, readers have to recommend it to each other, and word of mouth has to be there for books to become popular. And the process of editing typically before publishing, process of editing usually takes 2-3 months, depending on your publisher. They might make some structural edits, they might make relatively minor edits, depending on what you've submitted. But in general, the process is quite exciting because after publishing, you'll be giving a lot of media interviews. You'll be talking about your book everywhere. You'll become kind of annoying to your friends after the book is out. So just it's a fun process. And if the book is good enough, so every other day you'll be looking for whether some review has come in some newspaper. You will hopefully scan the pages of the Hindu or whatever to see your book there. And even pitching does not really help. It's mostly the editors who take the calls on which book to pick up for reviewing. And it's the novelty of your material and the quality of your writing that will ultimately at the end of the day ensure that your book has some longevity. So that would be about it.
So I guess this brings us to the end of the interview. Thank you very much, Rajat, for joining us today. And it has been a pleasure talking to you. We had been looking forward to this talk since a long time, since we came across this book, Truck the India, and and it became a topic of conversation within our friends at IITK. That that we had not expected that. Okay, the author is from IIT Kanpur. That was the biggest shock. That okay, कोई IIT Kanpur से ये भी कर सकते हैं क्या? Right? So that gave us a lot of hope and inspiration, and we hope to see you on all the international forums representing India very soon. So thank you very much for joining us again.
Thank you so much for having me. And this was a great conversation. I loved the questions, and thank you so much for having me. It was great.
No pleasure.
Thanks, everyone. I'll just end the meeting.